And welcome to the Virtual Business Owners Network on Friday, the 5th of May. I'm delighted to introduce Brian Barry, whose topic today is an introduction to leadership. So Brian, take it away, please.
Thank you, Alec. Leadership is an action, not a title. I'd like you to think of people that have influenced you in life, that have stood out as leaders. It can be anybody. Think of that person. Or people, maybe. Was it someone that you've worked with before, a leader that you fell under? Is it someone that you've seen on TV, in the media, in the movies even, maybe just a character? Leadership is an action. We all have leadership in us, but so often it's mistaken for just a title. My name is Brian Barry. I do business-related training topics, help people with presentations and speaking, and I'm an event MC. And Alec has asked me to speak a little bit about leadership today. Leadership theories and items about leadership have been around for many decades. It's been researched and it's been used across the world. But one thing that is a real, true leadership quality, which is still very much in its infancy, it's only in the last 2 decades, is this thing called emotional intelligence. And I'll briefly touch on that. Emotional intelligence, the 5 key points of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness being top of it. How self-aware are you? How do you know, or how much do you know about yourself? How you act or react in certain situations, in certain areas, in certain conditions, like when you're in a networking session like this, whether you walk into a room where it's busy, different people, different smells even, different cultures, different reactions, people saying different things. When they're making a joke, but you may take offense to it. What is your reaction to it? How well do you know yourself? And how well do you regulate yourself in those situations? How professional are you in every situation? What is your intrinsic motivation? Is it positive or maybe not so much? Are you there to help others or maybe go against the grain? Do you have empathy for others and their situations? Do you see that where you can help rather than just slag someone? And of course, what are your social skills like? How do you behave in every situation, whether it's a one-to-one with someone on a senior level or one-to-one with someone on a junior level? There's the saying, and I think it was Barack Obama that also said that, you know, he was taught to have the same respect for the CEO as he does for the janitor. Are you that type of person? Let's have a look at some of the values and behaviors. I'm sure by now you have someone in mind that you've thought of, that you aspire to be like, or that have influenced you in life for leadership, that you've seen certain qualities in them. Here are some of those qualities. As we've mentioned with emotional intelligence, you have self-awareness, empathy, but things like communication. How well do you communicate? And of course, all of these are things that leaders do very well. They listen, they respect others, they're always positive. Think about that. Have you ever seen a leader not be positive? Even in the office, if you work in a large organization, do you see the CEO or the C-level staff walking around moping about when it's a bad day? No, they just don't. They're always positive because they know their reactions and their the way they carry themselves will infect or relate to others. Patience, perspective, being flexible. Things can't always go your way. And forgiveness. Hey, we're all only human, we can make mistakes. So how forgiving are you as a leader? Integrity, giving others their space and being aware of their shortcomings maybe, or their differences. These are some of the values and behaviors that leaders have, and to a large extent, practice every day in a very good way. It's just an introduction to leadership. So I'm not going to go into any theories or anything like that, just a few key points about leadership. vision and clarity, decisiveness, focus and execution. These are more things that leaders have. They see the vision and it's clear to them. They don't get clouded by what ifs and, oh, maybe this, maybe that. They see what they want and they go for it. They make decisions. A good leader makes a decision. If you're forever stuck between 2 or 3 options and you never know which way to go, that isn't always a good thing. Leaders make a decision and they go with it. They stick with it. And if the decision turns out to be not the best, they take it on their own. They say, hey, we made the decision. It didn't work out. Let's try something else. They don't blame others for it. They set their focus and they execute. And as I've mentioned, they're accountable. They're accountable for everything, the good and the bad. Self-awareness, I've mentioned already. They're authentic. They don't try and be someone else. They are always positive and by and large often smile, but they're authentic. They are themselves. They're not someone else. They're not pretending to be. They're not one person at home and another person in front of you. They are trusting and trustworthy. They trust in their people, in their team, to make sure that they will deliver. And they have empathy. If something goes wrong, if someone in the team have some form of shortcoming, whether it be a physicality, a mental issue, or whether it be work-related, they understand. They're optimistic and they're inspiring. That's possibly one of the biggest things about a leader. A leader is someone that inspires others. And that's why you're sitting there thinking about that one person, or maybe a few people that you feel, hey, I wish I was like that person, or I'm going to be like that, or that's a quality that I've taken on that I would wish to grow myself in. That's what leaders do. They're optimistic about the future and they're inspiring. They see the potential in others and they show potential. They're supportive, positive, and encouraging. Those are some of the greatest qualities of leaders. Now, often we think that because someone is in a high senior managerial position, that they're automatically a leader. Leadership and management is not the same thing. Let's have a look at that quickly. Management versus leadership. You see, management is very much about control. It's about instruction. It's about getting the job done. It's often seen as just achieving yourself. It's the the carrot and the stick approach, where there's a lot to do. Management is all about tasks, reports, the results, getting things done right. It's this way, it's not the other way. It's all about the consequences. If you do well, you'll get a bonus. If you didn't, well, there's other consequences. That's all about management. It's just about control. It's about making things happen. Whereas leadership, on the other hand, is about people. It's about listening to what your people want. It's about helping them to achieve. It's about inspiring them, developing them, coaching them, showing them the way. Whereas management is about doing things right, leadership is more about doing the right thing. So there's a few points on leadership. I trust I've given you something to think about. Again, my name is Brian Barry. I do business training, presentations, coaching, and event MC. That's for me today. Thank you very much, Alec.
Thank you very much, Brian, and well done. Congratulations. Has anybody any questions they want to ask Brian?
Yeah, I have a question for Brian.
Yeah, sure.
Brian, well done. Fantastic presentation.
Brian,
how do you know if you have self-awareness?
It's, you could ask people, how do I react in certain situations? It takes a bit of time. I have, for myself, have seen, certain traits that I have. And the more you learn about these type of topics. So I'd say go and research the concept of emotional intelligence, or EQ as they call it, and self-awareness, and see what comes up and see, are you this, are you that, and how you react in certain situations. And the best is just to ask those close to you, those that you can in confidence speak about and trust what their answers are.
Thank you, Brian. Just before I move to Andrew, who has his hand up there, if you go into the chat, there's the one-to-one listing and how that works if you've volunteered for a one-to-one. If you're on the left, you contact the person on the right and arrange either face-to-face or Zoom meeting. Thanks very much. Andrew, you have a question there.
Brian, when you mentioned about other people thinking of leaders, who was the leader you thought of and why?
The leader I thought of. Sorry, Andrew, could you ask the question again? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I say, who was the leader you thought of and why?
I have quite a few, actually. Coming from South Africa, one person that stands out is, of course, Nelson Mandela, who had the most integrity in terms of doing what he said he would. Having been locked up for 27 years and coming out, he could have easily turned around and said, you know what? Damn them, I've got the masses behind me and I can destroy those that put me there. Instead, he seeks for retribution. He seeks for peace and happiness, for everyone to work together. So, you know, and also in his final years, bringing everyone together. Another person would be someone like the South African rugby coach, Rassie Erasmus, who, if you had asked me in 2019, 6 months before the World Cup, would South Africa win? I would have told you they wouldn't even be in it. But he brought the team from nowhere right up to the final. And it's that belief that they had, that they could win. The English team, everyone had their money on them. And of course, there's the All Blacks. But Rassie took the South African team and they literally came out of nowhere and they took it. So those are two people that stood out for me.
Thank you. John, you have your hand up there.
I do, yeah. I had a debate with another group, and it was a person who specialized in the whole area of politics and authenticity. And I have a question on that. When you are a leader of a political party and you get elected into Dáil Éireann, let's say, do you think they lose their authenticity automatically?
Good question. I wouldn't say automatically. I'd say it's a case of the process. Often there's things happening behind the scenes. Now, I'm not a politician and I know very little about it, but I'm a huge conspiracy theorist. No, I'm just messing. There are certain ways and things that, ways and means of governments that work. And you could come in as a politician or a new person and think, hey, I'm going to fix all these things. I'm going to right these wrongs. And then you just hit brick walls and red tape. So I think that may influence their authenticity a bit. I hope that helps, John.
Yeah,
it's a good idea. But yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot. Lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Helen, you're muted and you have your hand up. There we go.
Hello. Lovely, brilliant. Thank you. That was brilliant. Absolutely right up my street, Brian. Lots of stuff like making me smile there. And I'd really like to get your thoughts on what is it, do you think, that is the biggest barrier or challenge for some of those people who get stuck in that management mindset from shifting into that, from going from that manager to leader?
I've been there myself. I was, I grew a large team and I was put into a managerial position. And much like the politician, there's certain things you want to do, and there's a whole heap of red tape that you're up against. Policies, procedures, money, as we say, makes the world go round. And you want to do certain things, and the powers that be say, oh no, there's no budget for that, or we're shifting our focus, or we'd like to do this. So I think it's a lot of pressure from above sometimes for junior and middle management. Senior management sometimes can do what they like more so, but I think, again, there are certain policies, there are certain regulations that maybe keep them back. And again, it's the red tape. It's the control part that allows them not to be as free.
Do you think it comes entrenched as well as people progress?
That's it, yeah. Certain organizations will have a culture and you come with fresh ideas and a fresh approach. It depends on how open, much like the solicitor conversation we had earlier, where Alec was saying in some areas, you have to be, you know, the younger has to get out the lift because the senior partner is there. You know, they have that kind of thinking. Oh, we don't do things like that around here. It could very well be something like that.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll take the final question from Chris there. Thank you.
There was a couple. It was a really good presentation, Brian. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chris.
I mean, I've been a leader now for 30-something years, and on the politics front, I was in local government at district level, and one thing that happened for me was that I stood on the ticket of looking after my community, a very small, 2,000 people village where I used to live in England. And what I found was that when I got to actually being part of the party, because you had to be part of the party, I couldn't drive some of my things through for my community because the party didn't have those desires. Yeah, so it was like I had my own individual responsibility for my parishioners, but I couldn't actually do a lot of the things that I wanted to do for that reason. So it wasn't that I couldn't lead it, it was that I wasn't allowed to lead it.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think one other thing that I'd say is that somebody once said to me about you should treat people as they would wish to be treated, or sorry, as you would wish to be treated. And I always thought that that was wrong, because for me, I'd ask people how they want to be treated and then go from there, rather than assume that they want to be treated just like I do. Yeah, so that was a valuable leadership lesson for me.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with the self-awareness and self-regulation. It's looking at different people. We know a lot more these days about people, about different conditions, things like autism and dyslexia, sure, which 20 years ago was, because we didn't know that much, if you didn't read something or couldn't do something, you were just seen as stupid, for the lack of a better word. Now we know more. And it's, as a leader, be aware of these things. So go and read up on it and enrich yourself so that you know more about other people, and then you'll know how to treat them.
I think you need to balance empathy with assertiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, Brian, thank you very much for a very good
you,
presentation, and thanks everybody for their contribution. Thanks again. Bye.